All right, let's jump right in. Today we are digging into a truly mind-bending theory of everything. It's a wild one, suggesting the universe isn't just written in math, but in an ancient alphabet that connects physics, biology, and reality itself.
So, let me just start with this question. What if an ancient alphabet wasn't just for writing? What if it was actually a periodic table for all of reality? I know, it sounds out there, but that's the fascinating, complex idea we're going to unpack today.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at this alphabet of elements. Then, we'll get into the creative force it calls Cymatics. After that, we'll meet the unifying Philfo particle, explore the wild idea of the human bioaccelerator, and then we'll tie it all together with the interconnected universe.
Okay, let's dive into our first section, the alphabet of elements. Seriously, this is the bedrock. The entire theory is built on this one core concept.
So, the source material argues that in certain sacred alphabets, like Kashmiri Sharda Sanskrit, it's a one-to-one deal. Every single letter is an element. Kind of like how H stands for hydrogen on the periodic table we all know.
And this brings us to this central idea called TAT. This principle says these ancient alphabets are way more than just language. They're like these intricate matrices, supposedly with their own internal logic, kind of like our own table of elements.
So you're probably asking, where do all these letter elements even come from? Well, according to the source, they all spring from this one primordial substance, the EK Asulu Dhatu. You can think of it like a singularity, this element cloud or master alloy that holds the potential for literally everything.
And to back all this up, the source material actually lays out a mathematical framework. Now, the formulas are pretty complex, but they boil down to three core theories: Narbod, Arbod, and Dundukara. What these are trying to do is model the relationship between things like energy, light, and sound, and show how they act on that primordial alloy cloud to eventually create life.
All right, so if the alphabet gives us the elements, what actually arranges them into, well, everything? That brings us to our second section, cymatics, the creative force. And the answer, according to this theory, is all about vibration.
So in this model, cymatics becomes the engine of creation itself. It's the vibrational force that zaps that primordial element cloud, causing different elements and alloys to just pop into existence. It's basically alchemy, but driven by frequency.
And here's where it gets really nuts. Because it's all driven by vibration, the theory says that the whole process is completely reversible. You know how you can use electricity to split water back into hydrogen and oxygen? Well, the idea is that cymatics could do the same thing, deconstructing alloys back to their basic elements, a perfect, renewable chemistry.
Okay, let's get into section 3 and meet the particle that's supposedly at the very heart of this whole thing, the unifying Philfo particle.
The source then lays out this really specific sequence for how biological matter gets started. It suggests this progression that kicks off with particles we know, like the neutrino, and theoretical ones like the axion. In this theory, these particles then interact with something called the void to build the foundation for what it calls 2D biomatter.
And the particle supposedly running this whole show is the Philfo grace particle. It's described as being a lot like the Higgs boson, but with a major twist. It's reversible. The theory claims it can gain and lose mass, basically acting like a master controller for the energy needed to create biomatter.
So for section 4, we're going to take all this cosmic theory and bring it right down to a super personal level. Let's talk about the human body, not just as a machine, but as a tiny version of the entire universe.
The source makes this absolutely stunning claim, that our bodies are a direct, self-similar reflection of planet Earth itself. We have the same systems, the same forces, the same elemental balance. We're a microcosm.
And to really drive this point home, the source makes a direct comparison between the human body and the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. Yeah, it frames us as living, breathing biological particle accelerators. We're natural biomagnets, constantly managing energy and shooting out particles.
And that whole particle emission thing, it's not just a theory. The source points out that neutrinos, the same particles shooting out of the Earth's core, are also emitted by our bodies thanks to potassium-40 decay. And you can find the same process happening in bananas, tomatoes, and avocados. It's everywhere.
So, when the source brings up the fifth dimension, don't start thinking about sci-fi movies. It's not a place. It's describing a process, the physics of acceleration. It's that constant change in momentum happening inside our bodies on a cellular level that generates energy and force.
Okay, Let's get to our final section and see how all of this, the alphabet, the vibration, the particle, and our own bodies, all weaves together to paint this picture of a profoundly interconnected universe.
Now check this out. The theory draws these direct one-to-one parallels between human health issues and geological events on Earth. It's suggesting these aren't just metaphors but mirrored systems. So high blood pressure is linked to volcanoes, a heart attack is like a flood, and a stroke is like an earthquake.
And what's really key here is the idea that these systems, both in us and on the planet, are in this constant dynamic state of balance. The very same forces of stress and shear that shape our planet are described as being mirrored in our own biology, each with its own opposite balancing force.
And that leaves us with one last, pretty deep question to think about. If our bodies really are a direct reflection of the Earth, as this theory claims, what does the state of our collective health say about the health of our planet? It's a powerful thought to end on. Thanks for joining me on this one.